Welcome to Tradier's The Trader's Edge. I am Jim Iuorio. That's Bob Iaccino. We are also 2/3 the team at unfilteredinvestor.com with our technical strategist, Mike Arnold. A lot of you guys have joined us over there, and we are very, very appreciative of that. Bobby, do you remember when the beginning of podcasts, when everyone say, "What's up, guys? Hey, guys," that was always the most like for about 5 minutes, it was like fun. And then,
hey, guys.
Hey, guys. It's Jim here. I hated it. Okay, so today in the show, we're having one of our favorite guests, but let's not bring him on quite yet, Tony Nash from Complete Intelligence. We're also going to talk about the pattern day trading rules too, which, Bobby, you are going to have to fill me in on what it was and what it's going to be, because it didn't apply to futures, correct?
No, it did not. It applied to stock trading, and I told you earlier it was June 6th. It's actually tomorrow that they're completely gone. April 14th. The SEC approved FINRA's recommendations to adjust the rule. What they basically were is that if you were going to trade 4 or more day trades within 5 business days, day trades being defined by trades done in and out on the same day, you had to have a minimum of $25,000 equity required in your account. That's no longer the case. It's actually going down to a standard $2,000 minimum for margin. And, you know, obviously you have to be within your margin availability. So day trading counting special buying power limits are going to be removed. That is one of the reasons, one of the advantages actually that futures had over stocks. There's still a lot of advantages that futures have over stocks. But like if you want to trade, you know, I don't know, Monster Beverage or Ingersoll Rand or something, you can't go to the futures.
Right. Okay. No, that's interesting. And then we're going to actually then probably hit on single stock futures that are being launched as well, which I think is very, very interesting too. But for all this and more, we're going to bring in our guest, our friend, Tony Nash, who is the CEO, president of Complete Intelligence. Bring on Tony. Tony, I can't decide if we should mention anything about the fact that Bobby has a shirt on with a stalk of broccoli. That's the first question I have for you.
Yeah. So my first question to you is, you know, your intro, I didn't even feel that special when I was doing CNBC. I did CNBC in Asia. You guys did it here. They just kind of threw me on. And so
can I tell you something, Tony? You weren't as special to CNBC as you are to us. None of us were special, especially with that Andrew Ross Sorkin. God, I can't stand that guy.
Asia guys, though, they loved me.
I was on CNBC Asia sometimes too, and I liked them quite a bit. Which, by the way, we're not just building you up. You are special. You're an extremely bright guy, and every time I talk to you, I come away with something I didn't think of. And I know we are going to hit something today that I've been kind of tooling around in my head, and then you wrote a piece on it that's going to be beautiful. Bobby, do you want to keep talking about just another 2 minutes on the advantages that pattern day trading, those rules being now? What is it going to be for the average trader?
So essentially what replaces the old rules is brokers will now monitor those intraday margin deficits, just like we have with futures. You theoretically could get away with a lot if you have a broker that's lax in terms of extending margin past where you would normally be able to go. The pattern day trading rules had day trading buying power caps. They had 4x maintenance margin. If you exceeded that, you could get margin call penalties, not just a margin call.
Yeah,
because, you know, you could put on a margin position and not ever touch the margin when you compare it versus your entry and exit. That's all gone now. Brokers have flexibility, just like in the futures world, to offer more margin on top of that. They're now taking on a lot more risk. Again, very similar to the futures markets. And I think the two biggest things that are being eliminated is a $25,000 minimum. Now, a regular standard $2,000 minimum, and you can day trade and you don't have a limit on it like you did before. Before, they would flag you based on 4 or more trades in 5 business days, now, especially if they exceed 80% of your total trades.
So the futures will still have that 60-40 tax advantage thing, right?
Yeah, nothing's changing in futures. This is all something that's being addressed in
markets. But equities won't have that either. Remember we made Tony feel special? Now we just have him sitting here, just waiting.
That's all right.
Waiting to comment about the broccoli.
Do you have any comments on that, Tony?
Here's what it means to me. Yeah. you used to have 25,000 to get wiped out. Now you only have to have $2,000 to get wiped out, right? So it's the democratization of risk.
I did a webinar on this the other day, and I was trying to explain to people how this is great if you're a day trader. I'm not really a day trader, but I can speak to it, right? And this one guy was saying, even the broker should monitor our margin. I'm in and out of every trade within 8 seconds. It's like, okay, so number one, no, you're not. Number two, even if you're out within 8 minutes, how about flash crashes and stuff like that? The broker is taking on risk. Well, not for me, they're not, because I control my risk. Shut up.
Yeah.
You think you do? It's an illusion. You think
it's completely an illusion.
But I mean, even when you're in cash, I mean, nobody controls the risk. It's an illusion everywhere you are. When you're in cash, they're beating the shit out of cash. They have been for 30 years. So
hey, if you were in cash at Silicon Valley Bank, you almost lost all of it. And you were just in the bank.
Yeah.
Unless you were like a handful of people, then you got your cash back.
Bingo. The connected people always do very well.
Yeah, that's right. So, Bob, I want to hear about this broccoli shirt.
Yeah.
There is a comedian by the name of Josh Blue. Okay. And he's handicapped. He's got cerebral palsy. He's got one short arm, and he's hysterical. He makes fun of his arm, and he makes fun of able-bodied people. I'm using his term. And he was just so good. And he kept saying that he was like number 2 for America's Got Talent like 10 years ago. He got second place, and he was selling these shirts. You know, he's outside. You know, I'm not really a star effer, if you know the term. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. But he was impressive to get up there, and, you know, he didn't have full power over the English language like Tony does. I certainly don't. And, you know, he was up there telling these jokes and ripping himself. And I thought, this is great. Not only am I going to buy the ticket, but I'm going to support him and buy his merchandise. And I bought it. To my dismay, I'm looking at him like, is that a stalk of broccoli? I don't even eat vegetables at all. So I've been looking for someone. I've gone around to a couple of different tailors and said, can you just put like a red line through this for me? I don't think I'm disrespecting him if I do that, but that's just something that is also handicapped wife just thinks, oh, this will be funny. And she sews them on here herself, and they sell them at the shows. At least that's what they told me, and I bought it. I bought the story and the shirt.
Right. You did. Had by the comment.
You're all in. That's right.
I'm in.
Okay, so now there's something that I think is okay. This is fascinating because at 9:20 this morning, because I had to go back and look at what time I tweeted it out, because then I read your piece an hour and a half later, and I was thinking, did I steal it like I normally do? But it seems like you and I had the same thought at a very similar time. My thinking is this, and you wrote a whole piece on it. We are all fawning over the makers of AI, who are going to be the gatekeepers, the people who make the chips, the people who are doing the build out, despite the fact that they haven't been able to monetize it that well. All of a sudden, I thought to myself, what happens once it's fully mature and built out? Those aren't necessarily going to be the ones who are making all the money. What's going to be making all the money is every other stock that's using AI to be more productive. Can you expound on that?
Okay. So we only have an hour, so I'm going to have to speed this up a little bit. So as you know, I run an AI company called Complete Intelligence, and we do quantitative forecasting for markets and for corporate finance and supply chain. So I kind of know the inside of how the quant AI stuff works. And I know this is really mysterious for people, but the LLMs, that's just really statistical mean reversion. It's qualitative mean reversion, right?
Well, don't talk in some of these people just tune in. They're not quite as plugged in as we are. I don't know what LLMs mean.
So a large language model. Like
of course. I do know what they mean. Yeah.
So it's just qualitative mean reversion. It's breaking up your question into blocks. It's looking for things, and I'm way oversimplifying this, but it's looking for things that are similar to make kind of meaning of it. And then it's trying to find an answer to your question that is meaningful, but it's not understanding what's going on. So it's just statistics. It's super nerdy, right? And so what I have been thinking about for a long time, and I finally started putting something together this week and published it today. So I also write on a Patreon called Main Street Alpha. And I don't know if you know Leo Nellison and Albert Marco. Albert and I moved over there to do our stuff. So I published on Main Street Alpha. And so really it's talking about a couple of things. So the LLMs right now, meaning the OpenAIs, the Geminis, the Anthropics of the world, if you're using those, you're paying per token, which adds up. And so we've heard these stories about Uber spent their entire token budget by like April of this year or something, right? And I think yesterday it was announced that they put each of their developers, so they have 5,000 developers, so they put them on a $1,500 budget per month for token use. So imagine you have 5,000 people and you're giving them $1,500 per month additional expense to do stuff. That's $90 million a year, right? But they had already done multiple times that because their budget for the whole year was blown by April. So if you're Anthropic, which I think they're using Anthropic, you went from probably a $3 billion plus revenue opportunity with Uber to now it's $90 million because your guys Uber's developers went way out of line, overuse stuff, right? So you went from a few $1 billion to 90 million, which if you look at kind of the 8 to 12 times valuation that a lot of AI companies get, that's still $1 billion of valuation added from just from Uber. Okay. So far am I tracking?
No, because here's what I missed. Because it seems to me that if Uber blew through its spend by April, then they'd have to re-up and it'd be more revenue for Anthropic.
No, because the rate of burn of their tokens, they've now governed that. Okay.
So they're not allowing them. Okay. Now they're not
allowing their guys to spend what they were spending before. So let's say, and I don't know the numbers, but let's say before each engineer was spending $5,000 to $10,000 in tokens per month. Yeah. Now they've reined it in and said, you have a limit of $1,500 in tokens.
Now I'm back on track.
Right. Yeah. So you have that, the awareness of burn, okay, is one thing. You also have these largely Chinese large language models that are a fraction of the American models with excellent capability. And so there's the worry about, are they going to steal my data? Is it, are they censoring whatever, right? Now you have a company called Minimax that's put its large language model in Singapore. So you don't necessarily have, and I know we can always come up with worries, but you don't necessarily have the same worries of all your queries going to the Chinese mainland with Minimax. And I don't use them. I don't represent them. I'm just stating this if it's based in Singapore. So I think you're going to have more of those Chinese LLMs with the cost base that they have, which is a fraction of the US cost base, moving to a place like Singapore so that Westerners are more comfortable using that tool. So you have that competitive pressure. You have the awareness of the token burn. You have the competitive pressure of the Chinese LLMs that are moving to places like Singapore that are credible businesses. You also have open source LLMs that you can put on your machine, okay? This is the other part. So AMD and other people, and part of the reason I started thinking about this is because Bob sent me a note on Saturday morning about a forecast that we had about AMD. And so I started looking into why it was there. And AMD has put out some hardware where you can take these very large language models and for like $3,000-4,000 have this model where you can have a 200 billion parameter model in your office for you to work on. Okay. So once you do that, you spend that $4,000 and then you don't have API costs. Okay. It's right there. It's a massive 200 billion parameter model, right? So think about if Uber said, hey, we're not going to spend that money with Anthropic or OpenAI. We're just going to spend $4,000 for each of our 5,000 devs. So that's 2.5 months of API spend. And they could then have it on their desk, right? So we've been conditioned that Anthropic and OpenAI have they're this gatekeeper to artificial intelligence. And that's not the case. What has happened, and I started talking about this a year or so ago, there are multiple choices in the AI realm. It just so happens that because of Computex in Taiwan, we've had some announcements where we're starting to see kind of edge LLMs or edge AI, where you can actually have it in your office or in your home to do these massive models. How am I doing? Am I way out there?
First of all, I want to do this. First of all, I want to explain something really quick. I am a subscriber to Tony's Complete Intelligence newsletter. It is unbelievably affordable for what he gives you. Okay. And he brought up the AMD thing. I wasn't going to bring it up specifically. I'm not going to talk about the projected price. Tell me if I say this wrong, Tony. It's not a prediction. It's not a recommendation. It's a projected price within periods of time. Is that fair to say?
Yep.
Okay. The projection was preposterous when I read it. To me, it was very similar to, I have a sports betting model, Jim, where I look at a line. And by the way, I looked over the last few years, I'm about 81% wins on this. I look at a line, and if the line looks completely crazy to me, I bet the opposite of what I think.
The crazy part. Exactly. Right? Yes. Yeah.
So based off of that, Tony said to me, he goes, yeah, you know, that's what it says. Let me look into it a little bit more. And then he obviously sent us this note today, and I bought it. Okay, so I now own Anthropic at $496.50 is where I got into it.
AMD.
I'm sorry, AMD. Right. And I'm not going to say what the price was, okay, what the ending price was. If you watch both of our shows, you already know, because I said what the percentage gain was going to be on a stock I didn't really want to talk about until after it happened. So far, I'm up 9.25%. It had done nothing. I'm sorry, the stock is up 9.25%. I'm not up 9.25%. The stock is up 9.25%, including today when the rest of the market is weak. AMD is actually up 4%. That is the way a stock behaves when it's preparing to continue its run and possibly go even more parabolic than it has. So that's the statement I want to make. You can subscribe to this, and it's cheaper than your monthly cup of coffee unless you buy coffee from Tony, in which case that's more affordable. The question I have for you is this similar, as someone who's dumb as a bag of hammers, meaning me, is this similar to back in the day when we were all kids? If you wanted something analyzed, you had to send it to a computer lab, and then people started putting computers in their home. Is it that kind of a transition, or is that too simplistic?
Yeah, it's a fine analogy. That's a fine analogy. The other analogy I would make is this. So back in, say 2000 to 2005 was the beginning, I would say the beginning of mainstreaming of BPOs in South Asia. And if you were working a desk and you were publishing, say, sell-side research, you would send it over to your India team and they would write something overnight and then it would go out the next morning, right? So there's a commoditization of skills that happened starting back then, and it happened in other ways before that. But this is similar. What we're doing with LLMs is similar to having your India team do stuff, right? And instead of having an India team, you have an LLM, whether it's hosted by OpenAI or whether it's hosted on your local Linux machine, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. And so the biggest loser in what's happening right now, not in the short term, but over the, say, medium to long term, is, I think, services based in South Asia. So, you know, those guys, the services in Eastern Europe, the services in South Asia, those guys are going to have problems in they're probably starting to see it, but really in 3 to 4 years' time, it's going to be a real problem for them, because a lot of these skills that they have that are commoditized are going to be in a box, either in your office or your house or a data center.
So this kind of brings up a question, our regular viewer, Widge, and good afternoon, Remo. I see that you put that in there. We don't usually address those. Widge says, is there any way where all of the benefits of AI doesn't end up getting shipped to China and replicated for a fraction of the cost while we get stuck with all the debt? No. Take that in any direction you want, Tony.
Nope, it's not. It's software, right? And so, you know, whether or not it's the original, say, model, the derivative models will have capabilities that are good enough, I believe. Okay. And I do this for a living. Okay. And so if you as a user, so anytime I talk to a corporate person and they talk to me about AI, they tell me that their company adopted Copilot. And I'm like, that's the shittiest model out there. I'm sorry, but it just is. And so using Copilot and having it write your emails is the biggest adoption of AI in corporate, as far as I can tell when I talk to people. And so could you, like, having Amazon do that, that's the lamest thing that your CTO could do. But it's the equivalent of adopting Teams in 2020, right? But they're saying, hey, we're an AI company because we do Copilot. But what you do in Copilot sucks. And you could go to a 9-month-old Chinese model and do something better. So in truth, you'll have people tell you that security and the US is better and everything. And yeah, sure, I think the capabilities are probably better, but do you need those better capabilities? Like, I don't drive a Ferrari to the grocery store. So do I really need that stuff?
I do drive a Ferrari to the grocery store.
I believe that, Jim.
Yeah, there's something. Now, let's break this down, because this, to me, by the way, like I said, this is what I was ruminating on this morning. And I think there's trades here. I think there's investment thesis here. And I know that sometimes you can't fight enthusiasm, even if it's misguided enthusiasm. But when you look at some of the names that have led the rally, and we've anointed them the gatekeepers of the new and emerging technology, who are going to be the ones that have the loosest grip on it when push comes to shove?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, look, I've said for probably 18 months that NVIDIA is priced to perfection. I mean, how long can you say that before you start to really question it, right? And that's not to question the amazing capability that NVIDIA chips have. It's not to question the amazing revenue model they have, right? You look at the expectations around OpenAI. Look, I look at Sam Altman, and I don't find him respectable in the least.
You want to punch him in the face kind of too? That's like what you get. Because I do too. And Sam, I would never punch you in the face. I just want to punch you in the face. I have impulse control.
Okay. I look at these guys and it's just a big eye roll, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of them make cool stuff, but they're out there selling something. And I see these IPOs as taking private risk and putting it in public markets. That's all I see it as. And so you've got private investments that need to de-risk their portfolios, and they're de-risking onto you in public markets. And when I look at some of the IPOs that are coming up, and I look at SpaceX versus any of these LLMs, I would much rather bet on SpaceX than Anthropic or OpenAI. But again, maybe I'm oversimplifying it. I could be wrong. I'm not saying these things are garbage. I'm not saying they don't have capability. I'm just saying the hype is really big, and the substitutional factors, meaning the deflation around tokens that's coming, it's going to be a massive factor.
Is it pure competition, Tony, that's going to drive the deflation in tokens?
Yeah, so here's what I see.
By the way, just real quick, I think you should explain what the tokens are. They're basically like a digital key to get into your account at the AI centers, right? For the most part.
Yeah, and it's like little say fish pellets or whatever, right? Each one is something that the AI machine gobbles up, and each different model uses a different amount of tokens. And when you have a photo generated or a video generated or some text, all of those consume different level of tokens depending on the difficulty of it, right? So here's the other thing that I don't think many people are thinking about, and I've been talking about it for a long time. These LLMs, whether it's Claude Code or Codex or any of these things, these are, for the most part, reverse engineering engines, okay? So you go on and you say, I want to build a site like X, not X Twitter, but I want to build a site like fill in the blank. Okay. Coder does that, or I want to build capability like whatever. Okay. And Codex or OpenAI will go in and they'll build it for you. Okay. All of these websites have terms of use, terms of service, terms of access, all of these things. And so there's I don't know if you know Deirdre Bosa at CNBC. She talked about, she opened up Claude Code and produced like Monday.com or something like that on her website. Well, actually, Monday.com has pretty tight IP protections. So if that was commercialized, then they could go after her, right? And I believe that after these companies go public, we're going to have thousands of IP cases pursuing both these reverse engineering companies and the people that have used it. But I think a lot of attorneys are waiting for this to go public so that the pot of money is bigger.
Wow. Okay, we got to take a quick time out. Luis, you put the banner up, but my mind is blown by this, by the way. And I love this discussion. I want to get back to it because I do have some downstream things I want to discuss too. But this is part of the show where I ask you guys watching a favor. Please scan that QR code and try Tradier Pro for 3 months for free. We talked to options traders. We are options traders. We talked to options traders who have been doing it for decades, and some have been doing it for days. They all say the same thing about Tradier Pro. It is the deal. It is the gold standard in options trading platforms. Please do it as a favor to us, and I think you're going to love it anyway. Scan the QR code, 3 months for free. And now back to the show. Okay, so when I hear this, like, I think that you and I are similar in a lot of ways, except you are like truth for its own sake. And I think that's beautiful and wonderful. I'm lesser. I'm okay. How do I make a buck off this? And I think the AI thing is going to start. It's already spreading, but the narrative is going to begin spreading. I got a chart of XLV because I think healthcare, and Bobby, we have it on our watch list, but it's not gotten to our levels yet, but we have it on our watch list. Technically, I think healthcare is going to be one of the hugest beneficiaries of AI in costs and productivity. Thoughts?
Have you ever worked with a hospital?
No. Tell me more.
Okay. A lot of their IT backend and their data is actually owned by one company.
Epic.
And that company will not share. And so any activity that needs to be done with that data requires the approval of that company.
The company is Epic, right? It's Julie up in Madison, right?
Yeah. And so hospitals can't do a lot until they get approval from that company. And it requires licensing and other things. So, I think until we have a monopoly discussion in DC over healthcare data, which needs to happen, and I wish this administration would do that, but somebody's probably financed a campaign or whatever. But we need to have a discussion about the monopoly of healthcare data. And until we have that discussion, hospitals cannot be optimized, and your healthcare experience will continue to be a cluster. It's terrible.
Oh, it's unbelievable. By the way, that's Bobby, you know of Epic, right? Because I live kind of in Epic country. A lot of the real bright kids go to work in Madison, and my brother-in-law does all her buildings and is a little bit friendly with her. I would marry her. I know she's like 85 years old, but she's worth about $20 billion now. So tell her if you want to get married, I will.
Let me tell you a healthcare story. We were working with a healthcare firm, very large healthcare firm a few years ago. Okay. And we do supply chain cost forecasting in addition to, say, revenue and expenses, that sort of thing. We used their data, and we saw that this company that it's over $100 billion in revenue, their cost forecast had an error rate of 17.4% over a 12-month period.
Wow.
Massive company, and they didn't know how to forecast their costs. Okay. Our error rate over the same data, the same period, was 3.2%. And we went to them and we said, hey, this is an issue. We can help you with this. Okay. Now, this is the healthcare response. Unfortunately, the typical healthcare response. They said, you just don't understand how these products are priced. Okay. I don't. And I don't have to. Right. I'm a nerd. I don't care if we do mining, which we've worked in mining, we've worked in healthcare, we've worked in services, we've worked, all sorts of things. And it doesn't matter. My team and I, we look at data, we understand how data behaves. We've been doing this for a long time. So whether or not I know the salesperson at the vendor, it shouldn't matter. The fact that this company did over $100 billion in revenue, and the gap in accuracy is 15% between what we did with our little team and what they do with their massive team of people is a huge problem. I won't name the company, but their shareholders are probably aware that they have issues, but nobody is up in arms because nobody wants to upset the apple cart in healthcare.
Oh, so are you saying the ground is fertile, or the ground is blocked off and will never be penetrated?
Blocked off.
It's blocked off.
That's what
it's
I'm
a
hearing.
cartel. It's a cartel. No one will ever get in there.
Okay, Bobby?
So I think the opportunity for AI to help in healthcare at the clinical level, sure, it's fine. And then you have companies like Palantir where, you know, they have high level contacts and orchestrate all this stuff. They'll do stuff, right? But they won't be able to do anything meaningful because it's blocked off.
Is prompt generation somewhere where there could be some growth? And the reason I ask you that is because I pay for 3 different AIs, okay, 3 different LLMs, just a basic monthly fee, right? And I find one does things better. Actually, I've just realized I pay for 4. I have Perplexity, I have Grok, I have ChatGPT, and I have Claude. And they all do something different, right? And now Tony's going to say you could pay for one and it's better than all of those, but
no, I'd pay for 2.
Okay.
I'd pay for 2. You have to game them against each other.
I'm constantly arguing with almost all of them.
No, don't argue
about,
with them.
you know, it's
like, too worth it.
Well, I have a prompt for Claude that says, you know, search X and don't take any sources older than this date and get these results. And it's like, this is a year-old source. What the frick are you doing? You know, I'm constantly arguing with it. I'm calling it names. You know, I'm typing in "you bitch" and all this stuff. And I'm like, it's, you know, it's like, it drives me crazy. So when I think about something,
it's interesting that your AI is a woman.
I know. Well,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the same thing.
Dude, but I guess it
He
could
calls
be if
dudes
he's
bitches
French.
too, probably.
I guess if he's French, he could be a dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You have to game them against each other, right? Like,
yeah, I was just going to make a joke.
You ask the same thing. You see what one says versus the other. I do that all the time. I find that X is the best at like up to the minute events. You know, so I'm not going to Gemini or whatever or Claude to look for current events. I mean, if I want to know something that happened within the last 6 hours, I'm not going to any of those. I'm going straight to X to get.
Can you guys make the argument for why I should pay for any of them at all if they're giving away for free? What do I get differently?
Oh,
if you're working a lot on them, you time out.
I've timed out one time before.
Your data ends.
If you're using free model, you're getting terrible results. I wouldn't do it.
Really? So which one should I pay up for now?
So I primarily use Gemini, and I primarily use Gemini because the image generation is pretty good. The cloud backend, I work with Google Cloud Backend, and the different models are pretty good. Now I have weeks where I love Gemini. The deep research is a very good thing. But you know, I'll flip over to ChatGPT for some image generation. Sometimes it's very good. Anthropic is very good at.
By the way, why do you pronounce it Anthropic and everyone else pronounces it Anthropic? And my guess is that you're correct and we're all wrong.
No, I'm probably wrong. I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. Anthropic.
Did you notice that too, Bobby, or no? And whatever Tony does, I just assume he's right.
No. But I use these other models for the most part. But my workhorse is Gemini, just for no other reason than this. Okay, Google will win.
Yeah, of course. That's
no
why I
matter
own
what,
so much Google stock, right?
Yeah, no matter what happens with Anthropic, and OpenAI, Google will win. These other guys are here for a few years, and they're going to be acquired by somebody. After, you know, they go public and the air comes out of them, they'll be acquired by somebody. And I have some ideas on that, but that has to play out a little bit first. But Google will win. I have no doubt that Google will win this.
You know my opinion on that, Bobby.
It's a question from our buddy Remo, and he's got 2 points on there, Luis. Thoughts on Oracle, Tony? And then he puts that Oracle bots, what is that, Cerner?
Yeah.
Cerner Healthcare. So what are your thoughts on Oracle?
Okay, so before I talk about Oracle, I don't own any Oracle stock, but my company was a part of Oracle for startups. So I do have a positive bias toward Oracle, okay, just as a company. So I'll tell you that. A lot of people think Oracle's the devil. Oracle's been very kind to me and my company. So I think Oracle is very smart. I think they're a great organization looking for a purpose. You know, they have a lot of good assets. They're just not focused. And because they have that kind of ongoing revenue from ERP, you know, and very tight contractual. If you've ever looked through an Oracle contract, it's amazing what they got away with putting in those things. So I think they just need to focus, and they can do great things. But I also think they need to buy my company to be better.
That makes
Tony,
perfect sense.
what is the breakdown of what all these majors do well? And let's limit it, of course, from Broadcom to NVIDIA to AMD to Oracle, just the big names that everybody knows. What do they do well and where are they not competing with each other? So I think your average investor gets confused. It's like, well, I buy NVIDIA for AI, but I don't know what Broadcom does, and just spit those out.
I mean, look, NVIDIA is incredible technology, but they're also an incredible hype machine. So yes, they have great technology and they were the first there, but will the first be the one that has the same position in 5 years? It's
rarely happens.
Rarely the case. So, and again, I don't think any of these are bad companies. I don't think they do things badly. I just think there's so much hype locked into what these companies do that you really have to question, where is the value? What value will they bring in the medium or long term, right? So Jensen, amazing guy, the company, amazing. I'm jealous that I don't work for them because I wish I had their, their stock allocations. But the question, like we talked about AMD a few minutes ago, will AMD catch up? I don't know. They're definitely taking a different approach. So AMD will not be NVIDIA. And I think that's part of the problem in that space right now is everyone is saying, well, do you have Blackwells and do you have these other chips? It's like, no, that they've already got that. So we need to find it. These other companies are going to find a different way to do it. And I think going to kind of the edge kind of LLM or edge AI capabilities, which is what AMD is doing. And I'm not recommending AMD or anything. I'm just saying, like, I think they've taken a different approach to doing it. And they're smart for not doing the exact same thing that NVIDIA has done. So who else? What is
Broadcom?
Broadcom, again, they're, good chips. I mean, it's all like, we can get into super nerdy things about this, but I think you really have to look at where do they get their revenue, in what part of the market and not just Broadcom, all these companies, in what part of the market do they get their revenue, and where is their fastest revenue growth, meaning in their product line. So is ERP Oracle's fastest growing revenue line? Probably not. They're probably growing faster in other areas, but they've had some real problems in things like Oracle Cloud. Like, I don't know anybody who uses Oracle Cloud. I used it for a while because they gave me free credits, right? But it's, relatively cost effective and it works fine. But they're kind of distributing rather than selling directly because they've had to do B2B deals to get that capacity used.
So where is the sector that's going to be affected by AI
my
that everybody's
exact
looking
question,
for
Bobby, you just took
that they don't know is going to be affected by AI the most?
So I've been writing about this a little bit. I think the sector that could be affected the most in the US is mid-market manufacturing. So when you look at mid-market manufacturing, and you guys are Illinois boys, there are a lot of companies where you've got boomers running the company and they're on tech that's 20 years old. And, nobody's wanted to change anything because what works. And I recently spoke to somebody who's running a mid-market manufacturing firm, and they put in some AI in part of their assembly line. So it's not my company. It's, they're doing some vision-based AI stuff in their assembly line. Shocked at how well it worked. Wants to do more. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is an old company, not great performance. They started doing this stuff and realizing, wow, we can make some huge differences here, right? Huge advances. So that aligns with this narrative that the current administration is trying to do to reshore companies, all this stuff. And so I think you're going to see a lot of adjustment there as the boomers move out of their executive roles and transition on to Xers or millennials, where more risk is, they're open to more risk, and they're open to trying things on an incremental basis. So I think that the thing that we need to be aware of is there is no one-shot answer for AI. You have to really look at what your problem is. You have to look at a discrete set of problems and then figure out the solution to the problem. So again, the lazy implementation of AI has been Copilot. And so it's not going to solve your problems. It's just going to replace Google searches, kind of. And so, I think we have mid-market companies. A lot of them are publicly traded. And I think investors and board members have to start asking, okay, where can we be more efficient? What can we do in our production line? What can we do in our finance suite, our marketing suite, other things to, to make our resources more productive?
So tell me this, is that when you look at any sector, do you think there's going to be a sector that's untouched by this technology and will just plod along the old school way?
I don't think you can. Because
even farming is going to be heavy in AI, right?
I don't think you can, Jim, because the problem is we have a lot of boomers who are retiring who have skills that no one else wanted to learn. So we have to automate certain things because we have people in a workforce who are leaving that workforce who have skills that nobody else knows. And it's a problem. So, unless somebody wants to go in and learn skills that are 30, 40 years old, because no one wanted to change the IT system because they didn't want to break things. I think we're going to have that. I think it'll come by function largely. It's not necessarily going to be a blanket kind of solution for companies.
Bobby, so to you, okay, so we said healthcare, and Tony disagrees with that. And again, I listen to everything Tony says. I still technically, if that chart looks good, I'm probably going to buy it. But where do you think, Bobby, that AI is going to really revamp everything and make it a great business? Whatever.
Well, I might have thought something different. The one thing that I thought AI was going to do the most of, which will lead me to my last question of the show. But the one thing that I thought it was going to do the most of was allow people to build their own businesses in the largest numbers we've ever seen. I mean, you could have AI do your books. You can have AI run your human resources, write your business plan, take you to the best places to recommend the best ways to raise money. There's so many things. And I thought the biggest effect is going to be individuals and small groups starting businesses. I like the mid-market manufacturing angle. I hadn't thought of that. When you think of that, it has to be. So I remember my first email, and it was when I got down to the trading floor and went to work at Nico Securities. But email had been there way before that. I was just in a small family-run business, and we didn't use it. Right? We just didn't use it. And it would have been such a thing. I mean, taking calls from customers, that place took calls from customers 27 hours a day, right? Just the phone was always ringing. And if there would have been email where email orders could have come in, it would have been more efficient. So, in thinking of it now, as something like MDY, which is not all manufacturing, but State Street's Spider S&P Midcap 400 is going to be pretty heavy on midcap manufacturing. I don't hate the chart. As a matter of fact, I kind of like the chart. It just pulled back in the rotation zone, looks ready to break out to a new high. The only thing I don't like is about 890,000 shares per day average over the last 20 days. Generally, I like to see more than that.
So here's the problem, Bob. So analysts have to start pressuring these guys to really implement technology. Mm-hmm. So until the analysts are aware of the capabilities, like the piece I wrote today about your locally hosted LLM and about the Chinese LLMs and the competition they'll have with Anthropic and OpenAI, until analysts are aware of that substitutional factor, until they're aware of the likelihood of devaluation of tokens, they're not going to ask smart questions, right? So you have analysts who are asking really stupid questions to publicly traded companies. So their boards never respond and their executives never respond. And they just deploy some stupid Microsoft product, which Microsoft, great company. But again, I'm so tired of people telling me that that's their only implementation of AI. And so until the finance guys start asking questions to the executive teams, these companies are not going to do anything because they're risk managers more than anything. They don't want things to screw up. So until companies start saying, what are you doing with AI really? Like, do you really have AI on your shop floor? Are you really putting it in your finance team? Are you really doing it in your sales activities, right? And if the answer is, yeah, I mean, we've implemented Salesforce. Okay, well, you're not really doing it then, right? So you need to justify it. And I believe if we would get smart analysts, which again, I think we've all been around enough that they're smart guys, but probably not really well directed, right? And so, they have to learn about this stuff. Until they get pressure from their their management to ask companies these hard questions, the companies aren't going to go downstream and do this hard work, because it's hard. You have to understand your operation in order to deploy it.
Jimmy, I just got like a semi-emergency call. It's not really an emergency, but I want to throw two things in real quick.
Yeah, and then I'll take it home. Yeah.
From X, MSXODUZZTR. I have no idea what that means. Miss Exo Dutzer. I'll just go with that. Has a question, Luis. It says Broadcom bought VMware. That's the one, right? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Broadcom bought VMware autonomous driving. Chip laggards like SWKS, QRVO, MCHIP going to come up. Assuming she means going to go up. And I'm assuming that's not somebody who's trying to get their holdings on the show, see if they can get a little tailwind from us.
No, but we're big into self-driving. Bobby and I are, and that's one of the reasons I own Google and one of the reasons I own Tesla. I don't know those chip things too, but if we do, like on our tech show, we can do a technical breakdown of those. If you don't know anything to say about them, Tony, or do you?
I don't follow those companies. Two friends of mine just brought self-driving cars last weekend, so. I mean, big space. I just don't know those companies.
Yeah, I think.
All right, let me real quick just read Widge's comment, and then I'll ask my last question, and I'll be like the guys on sports radio. I'll hang up and listen for my answer.
Right.
Widge's comment was, "Old man skills are legendary around here. If you don't know how to do something, consult a local 75-year-old who knows how to do everything." I agree with that, except I don't think he knows how to rewrite my poorly worded email. The last thing I wanted to ask both of you guys, and I'm going to keep this on. I'm just going to go do what the call asked me to do because I want to hear this. Matter of fact, I'm going to turn the volume up. Universal basic income came around at the start of everybody becoming aware of AI being a thing. Recently, we've had two patriotic fiscal conservatives, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, both come out. That's as true as me eating broccoli, by the way. Coming out with ideas that Elizabeth Warren, of course, just wanted to tax AI. And she said, of course, they'll be the best to distribute that money to the people who lose their jobs. Of course, every cent will be distributed perfectly correctly. And Bernie Sanders wants to own 50% of all of these companies. Go.
Tony, you want me to go first or no?
Sure, go.
Because when I read Bernie Sanders talking about taking, because he's like, I think we should give the American people 50%. No, you think we should take the 50% and then give it. There's an order of operations there that he seemed to forgetting the take part. Now, one thing that is interesting, and again, I have 99.99% in disagreement with him on this. You can't just take shit away. But he does make one small point that I liked. At the earlier stages of AI, a couple of years ago, I asked a financial question and said, what are people saying about this? And I used a work computer, it was not under my name. And it came back with a couple different quotes, one of which was from me. And I said, by the way, I think it was Gemini or maybe ChatGPT. I said, by the way, do you know that you're talking to Iuorio right now? No. They said, no, we did not. But we knew that you've asked questions that fall in line of a lot of these things. And I thought to myself, so they can just grab any stuff that I've put up and they can, package it out and send it to everybody. I don't mind it that much, but I don't love it that much. So Bernie Sanders has a point that what these large language models are taking over is not really theirs. Other than that, I think it's absurd. Now you go.
So if that scares you, then we should talk about quantum sometime. That would really scare you. Okay. So I think UBI
I also own IonQ. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Okay. I think UBI is just a non-starter. It's another way to get people dependent on government. I'm sorry. I don't think we're going to see net job declines. I do think we're going to see changes in job structure. And I know that's a cop-out, but it's true. I think that's going to happen. The government worries me in two different ways. First is this UBI nonsense. Second is regulation. So regulation, and my fear is that we get to a point where the guys in DC start saying, you can't use Chinese LLMs. You have to use American LLMs. And then
that's a good point.
Right. And then the pricing premium that OpenAI and Anthropic are charging, we don't have any way to compete. Like we as consumers have to pay a 10x price or something like that, right? So if I want to be stupid enough to use a Chinese LLM and pay a fraction of it, I should be able to be stupid enough to do it, right? Not that that's a stupid thing, but from their perspective, it is a stupid thing, right? So the regulation around AI is simply a way to entrench the guys who are rich enough to donate to DC. That's all it is. It's Peter Thiel's moat. It's the same garbage he's been peddling for 2 decades. And they, bribe or cajole or whatever these government officials to put regulation in to keep small guys out and to keep foreign competition out. So one of my worries that I don't really talk about very much is people saying, you can't use an LLM unless it comes from the US. Then I have to pay 10 times what I would have to pay for something made overseas, which is just really stupid. But if we're allowed to use those overseas LLMs and we're allowed to use the open source stuff, then we'll see massive price competition with the big LLMs, the Anthropics and OpenAIs.
Now, Bobby, you know what I'm going to write about? Because I want to know, and I don't know at this point, but when the time the newsletter comes out on Friday, I'm going to do an analysis on the fundamental analysis on the mid caps. But I want it to be not much tech in that. I want to bet on something that's not much tech that is going to use the tech, and I think that's going to be an interesting play. And like you said, the chart looks pretty good. Tony, do you have any closing words, or can I play us out?
Play us out.
Tell everyone where they can find you, though, Tony, because that recommendation may pay
I was going
my
to forget
whole
that
year.
part, Bobby. You have no confidence in me.
Okay, you can find me on X at Tony Nash Nerd. You can find my coffee at nerdroaster.co. And you can find my AI company at completeintel.com.
Fantastic. And you can find us at Twitter and at unfilteredinvestor.com and on the Tradier Hub. We thank you guys so much for joining us again. Special thanks to Tradier for hosting this. I am Jim Iuorio. That's Bob Iaccino. This has been the Trader's Edge.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.